Welcome back to Ready Player None, the only podcast that says, you just lost the game, as did our heroes. In a fierce battle against the Sixers, Shoto was de-rezzed by Mechagodzilla. With Sorrento taken out, our three remaining Gunters headed into the Crystal Gate, but on its precipice, they all died. Let's see what shakes out in Chapter 36. I was confused about this last time, but Wade, Artemis and H did not actually manage to enter the third gate. Wade tells us that when your avatar dies, you shift to a third-person view, treating you to a brief out-of-body replay of your avatar's final fate. It's explained as if it's something you'd be unfamiliar with, but who in this book's target audience hasn't already played a game that does that? After this thunderous boom, Wade is treated to a viewpoint of Parzival, Artemis and H, stood in front of the gate, frozen in place. There's a blinding bright light. Their avatars are reduced first to skeletons, then to skeletons with no hit points, and then a blast wave disintegrates everything in the surrounding area. Not only the people, but the castle itself. The entire surface of the planet had been wiped clean. Only the third gate remained, a crystal doorway floating in the air above the crater where the castle had stood a moment before. The Sixers had detonated the Cataclysm. Remember the Cataclysm? I almost forgot about it. It was a huge bomb that went up for a private auction 3 years before this, and was part of this book's startling display of casual sexism. When a Gunter was surrounded by avatars she didn't like, she would claim to have the Cataclysm in her inventory and threaten to detonate it. Either Ernest Cline just picked a pronoun at random, or we've got implied sexual harassment here in the Oasis. The Cataclysm is the only explanation Wade has for this. He waits for the game over message to light up on his display. But when words finally did appear on my display, it was another message entirely. Congratulations, you have an extra life. His avatar fades back into existence in exactly the same place he was. But given that the floor is no longer there, he looks down at the crater underneath him. I seemed to hover in midair for a moment, like Wile E. Coyote in the old Roadrunner cartoons. Then I plummeted straight down. The thing about Wile E. Coyote is that he was often undone by his own hubris. Not really comparable to your unstoppable character. Wade hits the ground and loses a third of his hit points. He couldn't slow his fall with his jet boots because his entire inventory is almost empty. He's got none of his weapons or gear, and he's now dressed in a black t-shirt and blue jeans, the default outfit that appeared on every newly created avatar. He checks his stats and sees that he's still at the same level and ability. He has one single remaining item, the quarter he'd won after playing a perfect game of Pac-Man on Archide. We knew that was going to factor in, didn't we, readers? It's a quarter he's inserted to gain an extra life. This had been completely unheard of until now. There was no record of anyone anywhere getting an extra life like this. And if you remember, he couldn't even take out his inventory to try and figure out what it was it did. But now it's just a normal coin. The Crystal Gate is 20 meters overhead, but he has no idea how to get to it. I had no jet boots, no ship, and no magic items or memorized spells. Nothing that would allow me to fly or levitate. And there wasn't a single stepladder in sight. Lay off the funny narrator bit. With his destination so close yet so far away, he starts hearing voices. Hey, Z? I heard a voice say. Can you hear me? It was H, but her voice was no longer altered to sound male. Oh, there we go. Pronoun watch. H is a she again. She sounds as clear as if she were on a comlink with him, but he doesn't have a comlink anymore, and she doesn't have an avatar. She tells him that everyone but Wade is dead, but Ogden Morrow has patched them all in to Wade's audio and video feeds. She, along with Og, Shoto and Artemis, can see and hear everything he does. Yeah, we're here all right, Artemis said, and I could hear the barely contained rage in her voice. And we're all dead as doornails. The question is, why aren't you dead too, Parzival? She is so mad at him, and in the space of 3 chapters they're going to patch it up and everything's going to be hunky-dory, because Wade's the main character and Artemis is the girl. Wade explains how the quarter was an extra life and where he got it from. H calls him a lucky son of a bitch, and we find out here that now over half of the Oasis's population is dead. Artemis's best guess is that it was the Cataclysm. The way Wade supposed it left some ambiguity as to whether it was or not. It slowly dawns on all of them that if the Sixers knew to detonate it, they must have been watching them. Surveillance cameras all around the gate. Not only have they cleared the area of the warring avatars, they have the keys and the methods to get into the gate themselves. H wishes him good luck, they're all counting on him. Shoto says, which is a very formal way of saying good luck in Japanese. Then I waited for Artemis to give me her blessing too. I should have made this a visual podcast and then you could see all the side-eye glances that I'm giving to camera, but then you'd also see that I've taken my trousers off in this hot August weather. Good luck, Parzival, she said after a long pause. H is right, you know. You're never going to get another shot at this, and neither will any other gunter. I heard her voice catch as if she were choking back tears. Then she took a deep breath and said, don't screw this up. I'd be choking back tears too if my one chance of curing world famine and poverty had been lost to a guy who wants to build a spaceship, fill it up with video games and forsake the planet. Left in a completely empty crater, no ruins, no rubble or anything, Wade scans around for any way he can get up into the gate. Something caught my eye, just a few flickering pixels in the distance near the opposite end of the crater. Okay, didn't you tell us that the Oasis had better than real-life graphics? Run the clip. As we said before, Oasis visors draw the game environment onto the inside of your retinas, because that's safe, but this particular one has the highest frame rate and resolution perceptible to the human eye. The real world looked washed out and blurry by comparison, and you can see a few pixels. That doesn't track. Oh, whatever. He reaches the item, which turns out to be the beta capsule. As an artifact, it's indestructible, and it must have been thrown over here by the blast. As much as Wade wants to become Ultraman so he can reach the gate, the capsule can only be used once per day. He reveals to the gang that he has no items since coming back from the dead. He asks them if their avatars were carrying any artifacts as well. Shoto didn't have any. H had a sword of the Bahia. It won't help Wade get into the gate, but at least he won't be unarmed. Artemis says her chucks will help him. My shoes. Black Chuck Taylor All-Stars. They bestow their wearer with both speed and flight. I think we as a society can move on from Converse trainers, right? Anyone who had a Chuck Taylor phase in their 20s will tell you what a pain in the ass they are to put on. He finds them after 5 minutes, really running down the clock. I'll get these back to you, Artie, I said, just as I finished lacing them up. Promise. You better, she said. They were my favourites. That's supposed to be romantic banter. That's the I love you, I know of this book. It's just about her shoes. Wade takes a running jump to the gate, flying through the air, but he stops short and hovers in front of it. It reminded me of the floating door in the opening credits of the original Twilight Zone. Shut up. The gang try to hurry him in, but he says there's something he wants to say to them first. Well, Artemis said, spit it out. The clock is ticking, fool. Impressively, Wade says that if he succeeds, he's going to split the prize money equally between the four of them. H asks why he'd do that. Because it's the only honourable thing to do, I said. Because I never would have gotten this far on my own. Because all four of us deserve to see what's inside that gate and find out how the game ends. And because I need your help. Wow, look at that. Character growth. Artemis, always willing to rub his nose in something, asks him to repeat that last bit. He says again that he needs their help. There's no second chances now. He has to clear the gate perfectly on his first try because the Sixers are really on his tail. The odds of me pulling that off will increase drastically if the three of you are backing me up. So, what do you say? H says she's in. I was planning to coach your dumbass anyway. Shoto is too. He's got nothing left to lose. Let me get this straight, Artemis said. We help you clear the gate, and in return, you agree to split the prize money with us. She's so skeptical of everything he does. Wade tells her she's wrong. Whether or not they help him, he's going to split the prize money anyway. I don't suppose we have time to get that in writing, Artemis said. This is not how you write a genial character. This isn't friend banter. Everything she says is just wounding. Taking that as a request, he opens up his POV channel. He opens a live broadcast for his 200 million viewers. Greetings, I said. This is Wade Watts, also known as Parzival. I want to let the whole world know that if and when I find Halliday's Easter egg, I hereby vow to split my winnings equally with Artemis, H, and Shoto. Cross my heart and hope to die. Gunter's honor, pinky swear, all of that crap. Yeah, that's fine. I could see that being the sort of hero speech your maverick, wisecracking character could give. It's certainly better than the last rallying speech. Only then he ends it with, if I'm lying, I should be forever branded as a gutless, sixer-filleting punk. Good way to undermine your big hero speech at the end there. And it's also a good clue as to how this book would alienate a general audience, because I can't see that making it into the movie adaptation. And only a straight man would say sucking a dick is weak. That low-key establishes a sexually aggressive power dynamic that's demeaning to anyone who enjoys a good dick in their mouth once in a while. There's the homophobic reading of that, or there's the subjugation of women reading of that. But I digress, and I'm nearly at the end of the chapter, so let's wrap it up. As I finished the broadcast, I heard Artemis say, "Dude, are you nuts? I was kidding." That's the first time the mask has slipped and she hasn't been openly contemptuous of him since chapter 18 when she dumped him. Are you telling me they're going to have a healthy romantic relationship at the end of this book after 160 pages of cold front? Wade plays off that he knew she was joking. Right, I knew that. He didn't. I cracked my knuckles, then flew forward into the gate, and my avatar vanished into the whirlpool of stars. End chapter 36. Bit of a short chapter this time, but that works with the pacing. It's quick and punchy, which is what you need in this section of the story. We've also got the satisfaction of tying up a few loose ends from earlier in the book. The cataclysm and the coin, and of course the beta capsule's also still in play. And it's good that we're finally getting some behaviour of Wade no longer acting selfishly. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do with his share of the money, but the fact that he's going to give 3/4 of it to his fellow Gunters, that's a good sign. As is the way he admits to needing help from his fellow Gunters, now that they're embarking on a collaborative effort. This could be the start of a changed Wade Watts. Humbler, kinder, considerate of others. But there's 3 chapters to go, in which everything is resolved in 20 pages. I'm looking at where my bookmark is, and I've had to sit through all of that to get to a part where our hero begins to become likeable. Well, presumably, in this tiny fraction yet unexplored. Ebenezer Scrooge started changing his ways quicker than that. If you want more from someone so humble he won't even promote his own social media accounts, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheLastGherkin or follow the show on Twitter at @RPN_pod. Watch along with subtitles on YouTube, The Last Gherkin, or get an MP3 download by sending in a blank audio cassette and a stamped self-addressed envelope. Join us next time to find out if Wade's lesson in humility has taken, or if, regardless of humility, he continues being an unsalvageably tedious misogynist douchebag. Wade was only supposing so, which left enough room for the fact that it might not have been. The way Wade supposed it. The way Wade was supposing it suggested there might have. The way Wade supposed it left some leeway as to whether or not that was what it was. What's this sentence? But H had a sword of the Bahir. Oh, hang on, the phone's ringing.